Hey everyone, I'm Ian, and last year was pretty dope for fans of Sonic the Hedgehog. With the release of Sonic Mania, the classic gameplay was revitalized and, in my humblest of opinions, more or less perfected. Especially if you take the Sonic Mania Plus DLC content into consideration. But it wasn't the only Sonic game released last year. No, there were in fact 2 major releases in the franchise, which to a lot of people are pretty much polar opposites in terms of quality. The aforementioned Sonic Mania, and the latest 3D installment in the series, Sonic Forces. It's pretty hard to believe that this game came out a full year ago. Despite the pretty harsh critical reception, I actually really liked it when it was released, although things have changed. It was a year ago after all, and for the most part, it seems like the Sonic fanbase has relegated this game to obscurity, looking at it either as a mediocre game at best, or at worst, a very poor one. But again, I really liked it when it came out, so I want to give it another fair shake. So let's get started with that story. If you don't care about the plot and stuff, just skip to here. Got it? Let's go. The game starts off with Sonic running to save the city from Eggman and his forces, before being attacked by Metal Sonic, Shadow, Chaos, Zavok, yeah, remember him? And new villain Infinite. More on him in a minute. They all promptly beat the ever-living fuck out of Sonic, and Tails cries from behind cover, gee, thanks. Cut to a few months later, where Eggman has taken over the world and we are introduced to the Resistance, who are led by Knuckles for whatever reason. Knuckles introduces our Avatar character, again, more on that in a minute, who is a rookie member of the Resistance. And get used to that name Rookie because you'll be hearing it a lot. The Resistance receives word that Sonic is alive and, despite being apparently tortured for months, is fine. From here, the game lifts the general plot and structure straight from the old Saturday morning Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, or Sat AM if you prefer. Eggman rules the world and Sonic and his pals just aren't gonna let it happen. Throughout the story, Sonic and company cross paths with Infinite a few more times, who is revealed to be powered by the Phantom Ruby from Sonic Mania, which, according to this game's story, allows the user to create virtual reality and... Okay, stop, hang on. No. This is not virtual reality. This is virtual reality. Makes you look like a fucking idiot. Anyway, as a result of this, it turns out that most of the enemies and bosses throughout the game have been fake, meaning that the entire story consists basically of Sonic running around attacking literally nothing. Huh. With this knowledge and a Phantom Ruby prototype that imprints itself onto the Avatar character, Sonic and company are finally able to take down Infinite and Eggman, toppling his empire and restoring the world to peace. And classic Sonic's here too! If it seems like I forgot about him, that's okay. So did the writers of Sonic Forces. He just sort of shows up from the end of Mania, and then he helps out a little, and then he gets sent home. That's literally it. You could have cut him out of the story altogether, and the game would lose nothing. In fact, it might have been all the better for it, but we'll get into that. In terms of how the story holds up, well, I like it just fine. Most of it's presented through these dialogue boxes on the level select screen, where you get to watch Knuckles take himself way too seriously, but when there are actual cutscenes, I like them. The writing is nothing special, probably the weakest it's been in a while actually, but the delivery from the cast is on point as always, and even if the narrative isn't exactly gripping or exciting, it does the job, and the callback to Sat AM is always appreciated by me. Infinite's pretty cool, at least until you play episode Shadow. That was DLC that more or less just let you play 3 of the stages from the main game, but mildly altered. It's nothing to write home about, but the story is set before that of Forces proper, and oh my god, it makes Infinite into a fucking joke.
I am not weak!
Whatever, man. Infinite is still kind of cool, he looks great, the performance is strong, his powers are almost cool even if they aren't VR. Yeah, I dig it. So the story's fine, if nothing great. Although, in the case of a game like Sonic the Hedgehog, I'd say the story's a pretty insignificant part of the overall package. What matters more, of course, is the gameplay, and when discussing the gameplay and mechanics of Sonic Forces, things definitely start to get a little more interesting. The game is broken up into 3 distinct gameplay styles. You've got Modern Sonic, which is more or less what we've come to expect, the Avatar gameplay, and Classic Sonic. Now, let's start off with the Avatar, since I think for a lot of people it is the most interesting part of Forces. Upon the introduction in the story, you get to create your own custom character. This was a huge selling point for a lot of people playing Forces, and even though I've never been one to create OCs personally, I can see why this would be super cool for a lot of people in the Sonic fanbase. You get a few species to select from, color choices, and as you play the game, a ton of customization is unlocked, which is awesome. What's less awesome is how it displays your unlocked items every single time you do anything. It can take forever after beating a stage to actually move on. Like, seriously, I get it, I unlock stuff, Jesus. I made my character a bird so he could double jump. His name is Fluffy McEggeyes. I'm sure you can piece together why, but I like him. The actual Avatar gameplay is basically that of modern Sonic, except without the boost and instead with a Wispin. And let me get this out of the way right now, they totally screwed the control right up for modern Sonic and the Avatar. Gone is the gentle acceleration of Generations and Unleashed, replaced instead with jarring speed boosts after running for about a second or so. It almost feels like you're playing Lost World, but walking for a minute before hitting the run button, and it feels pretty weird. It's not awful, we aren't talking about any Sonic R shit or anything like that, but it's such a step down from the general fluidity of games prior, which is saying something because the control of those games was already kinda stiff. And that goes doubly so for jumping. Every leap feels so inorganic and forced in this game. Again, it's never really bad for modern Sonic or the Avatar, but it's a step back from what we had. With that in mind, though, the Avatar is otherwise pretty fun, honestly. Other than the boost, he can do everything you'd expect from modern Sonic: sliding, quick-step, stomping, and via the grappling hook your character is always equipped with, even the homing attack. In place of a boost, you have the ability to use a Wispin, or Wisp weapon. I'll be honest, I don't love the Wisps. They worked well in Colors, but just got in the way in Lost World, and they were passable in Generations, but that's neither here nor there. Here, though, their implementation is actually pretty decent. Prior to entering a stage, you can choose a Wispin, and depending on which one you have equipped, you'll have a different attack and access to different color powers in the level. The only two I used while recording footage for this video were the Burst Whip, which is a flamethrower that gives you, appropriately enough, the burst ability from Sonic Colors DS, which is essentially an infinite double jump, and the Lightning Wisp, which is a whip that, while it stops you dead in your tracks when you attack with it, gives you access to the Lightspeed Dash when you find the color power, and I love that shit. I basically always left it equipped so I could take the routes that only allow the use of the Lightning Wisp. So, stiff controls aside, the Avatar is actually kinda cool. But what about the Sonics? Well, modern Sonic controls more or less the same as the Avatar, and that aside, he's fine. The drift is gone, which makes a few areas kinda lame, but otherwise his moveset is all here and accounted for. The homing attack feels good to use, about the same as in previous games, and when there are no enemies around, Sonic will instead double jump like in Colors and Lost World, which I think is cool. I enjoy that move. The boost is altered here, having less of a kinetic punch than in Generations, but making up for that with the glorious air boost. They totally reworked it for this game, and it literally lets you fucking fly. It's kinda ridiculous, honestly. The boost gauge in this game is only filled by white Wisp capsules, much like in Sonic Colors, and it is the only use Sonic gets out of Wisps, thankfully. There is some stuff that's a little off here, though. Sonic doesn't do tricks when he homing attacks enemies. Instead, he always strikes the exact same pose every time. It's kinda underwhelming, I gotta say. And the quick step is weirdly large in this game for some reason. Like, even in areas where rings or whatever are clearly laid out in a way that suggests a quick step, when you actually try to use it, you will go beyond where the rings are placed. It's an odd oversight since it so easily could have been corrected. Again, some elements almost feel like they're ripped straight from Lost World, which I kind of assume this game is built off of. Things like the tubular fights with Infinite that also contain an 06 reference for some reason. The jump physics and a lot of assets feel super similar to that game, except awkwardly repurposed to fit the boost formula. Well, in any case, issues aside, Sonic is still a lot of fun to control in this game. What's less fun is classic Sonic. That is bad. His physics basically just don't work at all, with basic jumping feeling incredibly stiff and awkward to pull off. His moves from Mania are all here and accounted for, like the spin dash and the drop dash, which both work about how you'd expect, but damn, he is so sluggish. Considering how utterly flawlessly Mania handles, having this come out right after was frankly pretty pathetic at the time, and to be honest, time doesn't really do it any favors. Rarely will you ever feel at ease with classic Sonic's movement here. He is just not fun to control, period. Sonic the Hedgehog 4 felt closer to the classics than this, and that's pretty sad. But control and game feel, good or bad, is only half of what makes or breaks a game like Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, the other half would be the level design, these areas that the developers create for you to run through and explore. How does Sonic Forces hold up in that department? Well, do you like hallways? I sure hope so, because the Forces devs sure did. I know boost to win is an old criticism of the boost games, but here it's honestly true. You don't even need to steer Sonic most of the time, just hold down that X button and watch him go, blazing through every single obstacle the game presents you with. It's fun at times, and when it works, it actually does have some great moments with multiple paths leading to various challenges, but even then, the levels last around 2 minutes on average, and the same applies to the other characters. The Avatar has more of an emphasis on combat, but it doesn't really change anything, it's still straight lines and short levels, and both the Avatar and Modern Sonic have QuickTime events, which, while looking really cool, are super inconsequential since it doesn't actually matter if you pass or fail them. I like failing this particular one, though. Classic Sonic, to his credit, does have pretty solid level design overall with lots of branching paths and the like, but with control like this, does that even matter? Know what else doesn't help? Green Hill and Chemical Plant. Again? Seriously, why the hell are these stages here? Not only have these levels been seen recently in Generations with nearly identical assets, but Sonic Mania, which came out just months prior, also had both of these stages. The music is new, sure, but like, come on. Death Egg is back from Sonic 3 and Knuckles 2, which is a thing. I'm not a fan of how much of the Sonic series reuses level troops, especially Green Hill. And it doesn't help that Generations and Mania both did these levels way better. It's a shame too, because reused levels aside, I absolutely adore how this game looks. The texture and model work is fantastic and all running at a stable 60 FPS, except on the Switch. And the new version of the Hedgehog engine leads to some great lighting effects and generally leaves the game looking very, very nice. I'm a big fan. This is definitely the best looking 3D Sonic game ever, even eclipsing Unleashed, if only because this game doesn't run like a literal slideshow. What the fuck? The music is pretty solid too. It's mostly original pieces with only a few remixes, and for the most part, I really like it. It's not one of the best Sonic soundtracks or anything, but it's still pretty good stuff that lives up to the standard set by the series. I do think it's a bit of a step back in terms of variety compared to other recent games like Unleashed, Colors, and Lost World, though. Each character has a distinct style of music for every stage, kinda like in Sonic Adventure 2. Modern Sonic has standard 3D Sonic guitar music, the Avatar has these vocal themes that tell the story of the game from his perspective, kinda like more pop-style versions of the Knuckles songs from SA2, I guess. And Classic Sonic has these 16-bit tracks that, without a doubt, are the low point of the OST by far. It's pretty bad stuff most of the time, sounding like basically every other generic third-rate Genesis soundtrack. It's not awful, but I don't think a single one of his tracks actually stick with me, and some are flat-out ear-grating, which is not the norm when talking about Sonic music. The vocal themes are pretty good, though. Infinite's theme is a perfect fit for a hammy edgelord villain, and I can't not mention Fist Bump. What a perfectly cheesy, upbeat song for this game. It's memorable as hell and totally fits the tone set here, and it gets your adrenaline pumping when it plays into stages too, which is always super fun. So yeah, the production values are about as high as you would expect from Sonic Team these days, but graphics and music can only carry a game so far, and unfortunately, in Sonic Forces, they just aren't enough. Don't get me wrong, Sonic Forces doesn't deserve to be remembered as one of the bad Sonic games. This series has seen some pretty low points, and Forces, quite frankly, is just not one of them. It is a step back from other recent entries, yes, but let's not kid ourselves here. Something like this doesn't even begin to approach the low points of the series, and it isn't fair to this game to lump it in with those. But like, at least those games had distinct identities, you know? Shadow, 06, Secret Rings, yes, they're all awful games, but at least they're distinct. This game feels like it has nothing of its own to offer. It doesn't really start to get its own feel until around 3 hours in, and by then, it's over. It's not like the game does much to try and draw you back in, either. Oh, sure, yeah, there are red rings to collect, but all they do is unlock more collectibles, which leads to yet more collectibles, all just for the sake of collecting. Not fun. I guess they unlock these little challenge and bonus levels, but they all kind of take a grand total of 40 seconds and offer very little in the way of actual fun or variety. They're gimmick mini-stages and honestly aren't worth your time. You can also play as Super Sonic as DLC, and I mean, he functions as you'd expect him to, especially with unlimited air boost, like goddamn, but there's no real satisfaction to using him here. He's not a reward for anything. It's just like, you downloaded him and that's it. Meh. Yeah, that's Sonic Forces in a nutshell, actually. Meh. The game looks and sounds nice, and when it works, Sonic Forces is a lot of fun. But though there's fun to be had, there's better fun to be had in Generations, which this game tries way too hard to emulate and never really pulls it off. I'd say it's worth picking up on sale or used, but honestly, this is one of the last 3D Sonic games I'd really recommend if someone asked me. It's certainly not a bad game, but with literally no identity of its own and a crazy lack of content, it's not really a good one either. I still generally like it, but it's a pretty pointless entry when generations exist. Just play that instead. But hey, that's Sonic Forces. What do you think of this game? If you have any opinions on it, good or bad, or hell, opinions on the video, good or bad, be sure to leave them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, it really does help a lot, and if you want to see more from me, you can of course subscribe. We'll be covering a broad range of topics in the upcoming months across various videos, in addition to weekly Sonic the Hedgehog streams for everyone to get their fix of the blue blur. Until next time, I'm LyingTuna signing off. I'll see you guys then. Bye.